The worn leather of my guitar case was as familiar to me as my own skin. Its scent a comforting mix of aged wood, city grit, and faint, lingering hopes. My name is Leo Maxwell. For 5 years, the bustling, indifferent, yet occasionally magical sidewalks of New York City had been my stage, my sanctuary, and my sole source of income. I was a busker, a street minstrel in the grand tradition. My voice and six-stringed companion my tools of trade. I didn't just play music, I breathed it. Each chord, each lyric was a fragment of my soul, offered up to the ceaseless river of humanity that flowed past. My preferred pitch was the iconic corner of Bleecker and McDougal in Greenwich Village, a hallowed ground where ghosts of folk legends past seemed to linger in the air, their spectral melodies intertwining with mine. I'd arrive as the morning rush subsided, the city exhaling its first wave of commuters, and claim my small territory, a patch of concrete that, for a few hours, felt like the center of the universe. My setup was minimalist, a battered acoustic guitar with a pickup, a small, battery-powered amplifier that had seen better days, a microphone stand held together with duct tape and prayer, and my open guitar case, lined with faded velvet, hopefully inviting a cascade of spare change and the occasional benevolent bill. Life as a busker is a peculiar dance of exposure and anonymity. You are utterly visible, yet often unseen, part of the urban wallpaper. Some days, the city was a generous patron, its denizens pausing, their faces softening as a melody caught their ear, their pockets opening. Other days, it was a harsh critic, its indifference a cold wind that bit deeper than any winter frost. I've played to rapt crowds of 20, and to solitary pigeons, my voice echoing against unhearing brick walls. I've had coffee bought for me by kindly old ladies, and been told to get a real job by men in expensive suits. I learned to read the micro-expressions of passers-by, to gauge their mood, to choose a song that might resonate, a melancholic ballad for a rainy afternoon, an upbeat strummer for a sunny Saturday. My repertoire was eclectic, a blend of folk classics, bluesy improvisations, and my own original compositions, songs born from observations, heartbreaks, and the quiet epiphanies found in the city's relentless rhythm. The village was a tough but inspiring school. The competition was fierce, the standards high. You had to earn your spot, earn your audience. But there was also a camaraderie amongst us street performers, a shared understanding of the hustle, the passion, the sheer audacity of making art in the raw, unfiltered public square. We'd share tips, a spare guitar string, a nod of encouragement. It was a precarious existence, but it was mine, authentic and untethered. City Song wasn't born in a flash of divine inspiration. It was a slow accretion, like a pearl forming around a grain of sand. The initial grain was a feeling, a bittersweet ache of love and frustration for New York itself. This city could lift you to the heavens one moment and grind you into the pavement the next. I wanted to capture that duality, its brutal beauty, its lonely crowds, its unexpected moments of grace. The melody came first, a simple, melancholic CG-AM-F progression I found myself humming on a late-night F train. The rhythm of the wheels on the track, a percussive counterpoint. It was wistful, yet hopeful. The lyrics took weeks, pieced together from snatched conversations, fleeting images, lines scribbled on napkins in greasy spoon diners. I wrote about the steam rising from subway grates like a dragon's breath, the kaleidoscope of faces on the street, each a universe of untold stories. I described the lonely wail of a distant saxophone in the pre-dawn quiet, the shared, silent camaraderie of strangers huddled under a bus stop, awning during a sudden downpour. The way the city lights at night could feel like a million welcoming stars, or a cold, indifferent constellation depending on your mood. The chorus became its heart, an anthem that was both a plea and a celebration. City song, play on, play strong, through the darkness and the light. City song, where we belong, hold us through the lonely night. From the alleyways to the avenues bright, your melody takes flight. City song, you make us feel all right. Yeah, you make us feel all right. When I first played City Song at my Bleecker Street spot, something felt different. It wasn't just another tune in my set list. There was an immediate connection. Heads turned. People who were usually rushing past slowed their pace, then stopped. A hush fell over my small, impromptu audience. I saw a woman in a business suit, her face etched with the day's stress, subtly wipe a tear from her eye. A group of art students sat down on the curb, their sketchbooks forgotten, just listening. The coins in my guitar case that day were heavier, more numerous, but it was the expressions on their faces, the shared moment of understanding that resonated deep within me. Then came the videos. A tourist with a smartphone, then a local music blogger, then someone with a decent camera and microphone. Shaky, candid footage of me, lost in the song, the city's symphony playing its chaotic accompaniment. They uploaded them to YouTube, to Instagram, to TikTok. The first one got a few thousand views. Then 10,000. Then one of them, titled simply, "This Guy on Bleecker Street Sings the Soul of NYC," went truly viral. Millions of views. Comments poured in from all over the globe. "This is what New York feels like. He gets it. I cried listening to this. Someone sign this man." My little patch of sidewalk became a destination. People sought me out. Other buskers with a mix of admiration and envy would tell me, "Man, everyone's asking for City Song." I even heard a jazz trio in Washington Square Park playing an instrumental version. It was surreal, intoxicating, and utterly overwhelming for a guy whose biggest ambition a few months prior was to make enough for rent and a decent slice of pizza. That's when Damon Blackwood materialized, emerging from the city's haze like a character from a noir film. It was a crisp October evening, the air smelling of roasted chestnuts and impending rain. I was halfway through City Song, the crowd larger and more attentive than usual, a small constellation of smartphone lights recording me. He stood at the edge, cloaked in an expensive-looking black cashmere coat, a fedora casting his face in shadow. He didn't record. He just listened. His stillness, a stark contrast to the usual ebb and flow of the sidewalk. When I finished, the applause was generous. As I was thanking the crowd, he moved forward, his approach smooth, almost predatory. "Leo Maxwell?" he asked, his voice a low, resonant purr that seemed to cut through the street noise. He knew my name. That, in itself, was a shock. "That's me," I managed. "Damon Blackwood," he said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. The name sent a jolt through me. Damon Blackwood, the Midas of the music industry, a producer with a string of platinum-selling artists to his name, but also a man trailed by whispers of broken careers and ruthlessly one-sided contracts. He was both a dream maker and a dream breaker. "That song, City Song," he continued, his eyes, when I finally saw them, a piercing, intelligent gray. "It's more than good, kid. It's a phenomenon. It's a hit waiting to happen on a global scale, and I'm the man to make it happen." He exuded an aura of power, an effortless cool that was both intimidating and seductive. He spoke of taking my music to the next level, of giving City Song the platform it deserved. He painted a glittering picture of recording studios, radio play, international tours. For a street musician who counted his daily earnings in singles and loose change, it was like being offered the keys to the kingdom. My internal warning bells. The ones honed by years of streetwise skepticism were ringing faintly. But his charisma, his reputation, the successful side of it anyway, and the sheer intoxicating possibility of it all drowned them out. He invited me to his office the next day. A sleek, minimalist penthouse in Soho, with panoramic views that made my tiny walk-up apartment feel like a shoebox. The contract he presented was a thick, intimidating sheaf of papers, dense with legalese that swam before my eyes. "Standard industry stuff, Leo," he said with an easy wave of his hand, pouring me an artisanal coffee I couldn't pronounce. "Just formalities. Protects both of us. My lawyers are top-notch." He created a sense of urgency. "We need to move fast on this, while the buzz is hot. Got studio time booked with the best session guys in the city for next week." I remember hesitating, asking if I should get a lawyer to look it over. He chuckled, a warm, disarming sound. "Of course you can, kid, if you want to spend a fortune and delay everything. But trust me, this is a golden opportunity. They all look like this. It's about getting your music out there, right? We're partners in this." Partners. That word, from him, felt like a benediction. I was young, hungry, and profoundly naive about the intricate machinations of the music business. I skimmed the document, my eyes glazing over clauses about ancillary rights, recoupable expenses, cross-collateralization, and controlled compositions. It felt like reading a foreign language. I focused on the advance, a figure that seemed astronomical to me then, though I'd later realize it was a pittance compared to the song's potential earnings and the promise of his expertise. I signed. I signed away my song, my soul, with a flourish of a very expensive fountain pen he provided. The recording sessions for City Song were a blur of high-tech equipment and unfamiliar faces. Damon assembled a crack team of seasoned session musicians, guys who had played with the listers, who could lay down a perfect track in one take. They were brilliant, no doubt, but they were also his guys, working to his specifications. My raw, acoustic rendition was systematically dismantled and rebuilt into a slick, radio-friendly pop anthem. Layers of synthesizers were added, a thumping drum machine beat, auto-tuned backing vocals. My original guitar part was still there, buried deep in the mix, but it felt neutered, sanitized. "It needs more, Sheen, Leo," Damon would say from the control room, his voice velvet smooth over the intercom. "More commercial appeal. We're aiming for a global hit, not just a village coffeehouse favorite." I tried to argue for a simpler arrangement, for keeping some of the song's original grit, its street-level honesty. He'd listen patiently, nod, and then gently but firmly steer the production back towards his vision. I was a guest in the creation of my own song, a featured artist on a track that was rapidly becoming unrecognizable to me. The joy of creation was replaced by a gnawing anxiety, a sense of artistic compromise that left a bitter taste in my mouth. City Song by Damon Blackwood, featuring Leo Maxwell. The billing itself was a subtle power play I only recognized later. Was released a month later. It was an immediate, explosive success. It debuted high on the charts. Radio stations put it on heavy rotation. It was featured in a major tourism campaign for New York City, then in a blockbuster movie. My face, or rather, a carefully curated, airbrushed version of it, was suddenly on magazine covers. I did awkward interviews on morning talk shows, trying to reconcile the street kid I was with the polished pop product Damon was selling. It was a whirlwind of superficial glamour, a dizzying ascent into a world I didn't understand and felt increasingly alienated from. But the money, the royalties I dreamed would follow such success, never materialized in any significant way. My initial advance was quickly eaten up by recoupable expenses, studio time at exorbitant rates, session musicians, marketing, lavish music video production, which featured more shots of Damon looking cool than of me actually singing. When I'd timidly inquire about royalty statements, Damon or his sharp-suited business manager would present me with complex spreadsheets filled with more deductions, fees, and opaque accounting that always seemed to leave my share hovering just above zero. "The industry is tough, Leo," Damon would say, patting me on the shoulder. "It takes time to see real returns. We're building your brand. Think long-term." I was famous, yet I was broke, living off the fumes of my rapidly dwindling advance. I was the voice of City Song, the song of the summer, yet I felt like a fraud. It wasn't my song anymore, not truly. It was Damon Blackwood's product, his property. He owned it. He owned me. The realization was a slow, crushing weight. The disillusionment was profound. The glittering promise had been a mirage. The partnership was a sham. I was a pawn in Damon Blackwood's cynical game. The anger, when it finally broke through the numbness, was a purifying fire. This wasn't just about money. It was about artistic theft, about the violation of my creation, my voice. I wouldn't let him silence me, erase me from my own narrative. My first instinct was to lash out, to publicly denounce him. But I knew a public spat, my word against a powerful industry figure, would likely just brand me as a disgruntled, difficult artist. I needed more than just outrage. I needed leverage. I needed to understand the weapon he had used against me, that damn contract. Unable to afford the kind of high-powered legal team Damon had on retainer, I began my own education. My local library became my new sanctuary. I spent countless hours poring over dense textbooks on copyright law, intellectual property, music publishing, and contract litigation. I haunted legal aid websites, online forums for independent musicians, devouring every article, every case study I could find on artists' rights. It was like learning a new, incredibly complex language filled with arcane terminology and labyrinthine clauses. I made endless notes, highlighted passages, drew diagrams trying to unravel the tangled web of legal obligations and loopholes. My small apartment, once filled with song lyrics and guitar picks, was now littered with law books and photocopied case files. The street musician was becoming a reluctant legal scholar. Through this painstaking self-study, I began to see patterns in Damon's contract, the standard predatory clauses designed to strip artists of their rights and profits. But I also found glimmers of hope, ambiguities, and one crucial oversight on his part. Deep within a subclause of a subclause, amidst a forest of boilerplate, was a provision that, while granting Damon's company the master recording rights and publishing for the commercially released version, inadvertently affirmed my underlying copyright to the original musical composition and lyrics, and, crucially, my right to create and perform derivative acoustic arrangements of said composition. It was a tiny crack of light, but it was enough for a seed of a plan to take root. While I was arming myself with legal knowledge, I also began to use the platform my fleeting fame had given me. I started a blog, The Busker's Ledger, and took to social media, not with angry rants, but with a calm, factual account of my experience with Damon Blackwood. I laid out the timeline, the promises, the reality of the contract, the creative compromises, the financial disparity. I didn't name names initially, referring only to a prominent producer. But the details were specific enough that those in the industry, and many of my fans, quickly connected the dots. The response was a groundswell. My story resonated deeply with other musicians who had faced similar exploitation, and with fans who were disgusted by the cynical machinery of the music business. The hashtag #MySongToo started trending, with artists sharing their own tales of predatory contracts and stolen royalties. Major music publications, initially hesitant to cross Damon Blackwood, began to investigate, sensing a bigger story. The narrative was shifting. I wasn't just a one-hit wonder. I was becoming a voice for artists' rights. Emboldened, I made my next move. I scraped together what little money I had left, called in favors from musician friends, and booked time in a small, independent recording studio in Brooklyn, run by a grizzled old bluesman who believed in music for music's sake. There, with no pressure, no corporate agenda, just me, my guitar, and a single microphone, I recorded City Song, original acoustic version. It was an act of reclamation. I poured all my pain, my anger, my love for the song, my love for the city, into that performance. The recording was raw, unpolished, a little rough around the edges, but it was undeniably me. It was the song as I had first written it, as I had sung it 1,000 times on the streets of Greenwich Village, imbued now with the weight of my experience. I released it myself online, through Bandcamp and other indie platforms with a simple message. This is City Song, the way it was born, the way it was meant to be heard. My song, the original acoustic version, struck a chord that the glossy, overproduced hit never could. It felt authentic, vulnerable, powerful. It climbed the indie charts, then crossed over, getting airplay on AAA radio stations and college radio. Critics lauded its honesty, its emotional depth. Fans shared it passionately. It became an anthem of artistic integrity, a quiet rebellion against the manufactured sheen of the mainstream music industry. It didn't sell as many units as Damon's version, but it earned something far more valuable: respect. And, crucially, it generated a modest but steady stream of income that was entirely mine. This new success, this tangible proof of my ownership and the song's enduring appeal in its original form, gave me the leverage I needed for the final act. With the help of a young, idealistic lawyer from a nonprofit artists' rights organization who agreed to take my case pro bono after following my story online, I filed a lawsuit against Damon Blackwood, Blackwood Records, and their publishing arm. The lawsuit alleged multiple claims: breach of contract for failing to act in good faith, and for an inequitable division of royalties, fraudulent inducement for misrepresenting the terms of the contract, and, most significantly, copyright infringement regarding the artistic integrity of the original composition, arguing that Damon's overproduced version constituted an unauthorized derivative work that had damaged the song's original character and my reputation as its creator. We also sought a full accounting of all earnings from City Song. The legal battle was, as expected, a brutal, drawn-out war. Damon Blackwood, enraged and humiliated by the public exposure and the success of my acoustic version, threw the full weight of his legal arsenal at me. His lawyers tried to paint me as an ungrateful amateur, a failed busker trying to extort money from a benevolent mentor who had given me my only shot at fame. They buried us in motions, discovery requests, and depositions designed to break my will and bankrupt my small legal team. But we held firm. The evidence was compelling. The original viral videos of me busking City Song, the stark contrast between that and Damon's commercial version, the success of my original acoustic version, the testimonies from other musicians about Blackwood's predatory practices, and, of course, the damning contract itself, which my lawyer skillfully dissected in court to expose its fundamentally unconscionable nature. The trial became a referendum on artists' rights in the digital age. Music bloggers live tweeted the proceedings. My fans held vigils outside the courthouse. It was a circus, but this time I felt like I was the ringmaster, not the clown. The moment of truth came during my cross-examination of Damon Blackwood. Under my lawyer's calm but relentless questioning, his suave composure began to crack. Presented with his own internal emails, leaked by a disgruntled former employee, discussing how to maximize profit from the busker's little ditty, while minimizing payout. His veneer of artistic integrity shattered. He became flustered, arrogant, dismissive, and the jury saw him for what he was. The verdict, when it finally came after weeks of testimony and days of deliberation, was a stunning victory. The jury found Damon Blackwood and his companies liable on multiple counts. They awarded me significant back royalties, substantial punitive damages for willful infringement and bad faith, and, most importantly, a legal affirmation of my primary authorship and a renegotiated, equitable share in all future earnings of City Song, in all its versions. The court also ordered that all future releases of the commercially produced version had to prominently credit me as the sole songwriter and composer, with Damon Blackwood listed only as producer. Walking out of the courthouse that day into a cheering crowd of supporters, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. It wasn't just about the money, though that would certainly change my life. It was about the recognition, the restoration of my artistic identity, the validation of my fight. I had taken on a giant, armed with nothing but my guitar, my voice, my self-taught legal knowledge, and the unwavering support of those who believed in me, and I had won. In the aftermath, my life transformed. The settlement allowed me to set up my own small, independent label, Sidewalk Symphony Records, dedicated to discovering and nurturing new talent, ensuring they received fair contracts and creative control. I released a new album of original songs, which received critical acclaim and, more importantly, allowed me to connect with audiences on my own terms. City Song, original acoustic version, became my signature, a permanent fixture in my set list, a reminder of where I came from and what I had fought for. I never became the kind of global superstar Damon Blackwood had tried to mold me into, and I was grateful for that. I found a different kind of success, one measured not in chart positions or stadium tours, but in artistic freedom, in ethical practice, in the ability to make music that was true to my soul, and to help others do the same. Sometimes, on a quiet evening, I still take my old guitar and head down to that corner of Bleecker and McDougal. Not for the money anymore, but for the sheer joy of it, for the raw connection, for the city's unpredictable symphony. The faces in the crowd are different now. Some recognize me, some don't. But when I play City Song, its melody weaving through the urban hum, it feels like coming home. It's my song again, truly mine. Its notes carrying the echoes of a long, hard fight, and the sweet, resonant sound of justice.